evening. You're watching the News at 6 with me, Ishan Russell. The News at 6 is all about the day's biggest developing stories, and we'll be filling you in on them over the next half hour. But first, the headlines you're tracking right now. Centre asked the states to brace for contingency plans amid concerns over food production this year after a prediction of a deficient monsoon. Markets fall big for the second consecutive day. The Sensex ends below 27,000 level for the first time in 4 weeks. The rupee also trades weak against the dollar. The United States and India to renew a 10-year defense framework agreement. U.S. Secretary of Defense Ashton Carter meets Defense Minister Manohar Parrikar. And after Kerala, Delhi government bans Nestle's Maggi noodles for 15 days. Fresh decision after rechecking of product samples. Well, our top story this evening, with the forecast of monsoon rain revised downward, the government has directed states to be ready with contingency plans. The experts feel that the deficient rains could hit Prime Minister Narendra Modi's plans to revive the economy. Yesterday, the Met Office predicted deficient monsoon this year, triggering a fear of drought.
Already hit by an agrarian crisis and farmer suicides, there was more bad news for the country, with predictions of a deficient monsoon this year. India suffered a delayed and deficient monsoon last year as well. With the prospects of a second year of poor monsoon, the government is treading cautiously.
राज्यों को फिर रिमाइंडर हमने भेजा है कि आप बताएं कि आपको कितनी जरूरत है। तो इस संकट से निपटने के लिए हमारे पास आज भंडार भी है और जरूरत जैसा होगा हम उपाय करेंगे और राज्यों को जितनी जरूरत होगी हम उपलब्ध कराएंगे।
There could be in some areas is more rainfall, there could be some areas it is nil. So thereby we have already started identifying it localized level. That is generally is being done by Agriculture Ministry, which we have started coordinating. So each state government has to be ready to address that.
Projections of a weak monsoon have compounded worries of farmers. India's food grain production already plummeted to 5% in 2014-15 from 265.04 million tons in the previous year because of 12% drop in seasonal monsoon showers. This year, there is a similar prediction of deficient monsoon, casting a shadow over growth in farm sector. It had registered a meager growth of just 0.2% in 2014-15 compared with 3.7% in 2013-14.
If you remember, when the industry had problem a few years ago, the government bailed out with a package of 2 lakh crore for the industry. Why can't you bail out package for your farmers? They are dying, they are committing suicide.
After dealing a hefty blow to the farming community, poor rains may snowball gloomily along the entire economy. A rise in food prices will trigger inflation, escalating interest rates, lugging industrial growth and impacting overall GDP numbers.
Economic revival has to take place. It has to come from rural areas, and the demand will pick up from the rural areas once the income goes in their hand, but they are in deep crisis, so the industry is duly worried for themselves as well as for the farmer.
India's upward growth trend was also hit due to poor monsoon concerns. RBI revised growth rate this financial year to 7.6% instead of earlier estimate of 7.8%. Kriti Mishra, Rajya Sabha TV.
And more bad news as far as the stock markets are concerned. They were down today and closed with big losses for the second straight day amid a crash in many mid-cap stocks. The Sensex closed below the psychological 27,000 level for the first time since the 12th of May 2015. It fell as much as 490 points in intraday trade and ended at 26,837. The Nifty, which declined as much as 140 points, settled at 8,135. The rupee is well traded weak by 9 paise at 63.91 against the dollar. Now, this is the second straight day of big sell-off in domestic equity markets. On Tuesday, the Sensex crashed 700 points in intraday trade after the RBI lowered its growth estimate for the current year and raised inflation target to 6%. The downgrade in monsoon forecast also spooked stock markets. Now, U.S. Secretary of Defense Ashton Carter arrived in India on Tuesday on a 3-day visit. He's scheduled to meet Prime Minister Modi and Defense Minister Manohar Parrikar, among other ministers and bureaucrats. U.S. and India will be signing the Defense Framework Agreement as part of defense cooperation over the next 10 years.
U.S. Defense Secretary Ashton Carter is in Delhi for 3 days to renew a 10-year defense framework agreement between the countries. He will also meet Prime Minister Narendra Modi, External Affairs Minister Sushma Swaraj and NSA Ajit Doval during his stay. He met with Defense Minister Manohar Parrikar on Wednesday at the South Block. Ahead of the meeting, Parrikar raised concern over US's arms sale to Pakistan. Pakistan and the US moved closer to a $1 billion defense deal in April this year to supply helicopters and missiles to sharpen up Pakistan's counter-terrorism efforts.
I'll not comment on specific, but any arms sale to Pakistan is a concern to India.
Leading a high-level delegation, this was Carter's first visit to India as Secretary of Defense. He was given a Guard of Honor at the South Block before he paid tributes at the War Memorial at India Gate. He had earlier visited India in September 2013 and July 2012 as Deputy Secretary of Defense. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Now, from Kerala to Delhi, Nestle's popular noodles brand Maggi is finding itself in a soup. After Kerala banned the sale of Maggi noodles in the state on Tuesday, Delhi is also banned it for 15 days on Wednesday.
अभी लिखित में कोई आदेश नहीं है, लेकिन वर्बली बता दिया गया था कि अगर आपके स्टॉक में किन मैगी है तो उसको हटा दिया जाए, किसी भी तरह की, चाहे छोटी हो या बड़ी हो, किसी तरह की मैगी हो.
Delhi is the latest to ban the sale of Maggi noodles, one of the most popular brands of Nestle. Shopkeepers have started withdrawing the noodles from their shelves after tests in the city-state revealed the snack contained unsafe levels of lead. In a meeting with Nestle India officials, the Delhi government asked the company to withdraw its stock within 15 days. A fresh decision will then be taken after rechecking the new Maggi stock in government labs.
दिल्ली सरकार ने लगभग 13 सैंपल उठवाए थे, जिसमें 13 में से 10 सैंपल्स के अंदर लेड की क्वांटिटी बहुत ज्यादा पाई गई है और सरकार आज मीटिंग बुला रही है, उसके ऊपर एक्शन लिया जाएगा. तो आज से कानूनी कार्रवाई स्टार्ट कर दी जाएगी. देखिए, ये प्रोसीजर होता है, अगर कोई भी सैंपल फेल होता है तो उसका जो भी कानूनी प्रक्रिया है उस पूरी प्रक्रिया का पालन करते हुए कोर्ट में केस किया जाएगा.
Sales of Maggi have plunged in the country after lab tests showed the noodles contained lead at levels that are far higher than the legal minimum. The tests also detected the presence of MSG, which is not mentioned in the product's list of ingredients. The controversy also found mention in the West Bengal Assembly on Wednesday, while Maharashtra is awaiting test results.
We are discussing issues. The important issue came up regarding this any ingredient which will be harmful to the health. So the question of Maggi came up because in Uttar Pradesh that matter has been already raised. So we decided to give it to the labs in Calcutta. When I came back, I took the decision to give certain products like Maggi, Kurkure, Lay's and other companies products to the laboratory.
अभी हमको मालूम पड़ना है कर्नाटक में कितना मैगी कंपनी का यूनिट मैन्युफैक्चरिंग प्रोडक्ट मैन्युफैक्चरिंग यूनिट है, वो सभी यूनिट से सैंपल लेना है और रिटेल प्लेस से भी उधर से सैंपल लेना है और सैंपल का हम नेशनल एग्रीडेशन लेवल का हमारा गवर्नमेंट का एक लैब है, CFTRI लैब, वो गवर्नमेंट का एक है और बेंगलुरु में नेशनल रिकॉग्नाइज्ड 2 प्राइवेट लैब भी है. सो हम बोल दिया है, मैं आदेश किया है गवर्नमेंट लैब को भी रिपोर्ट को जाना है और प्राइवेट लैब को भी देख कर उधर से हम रिपोर्ट लेना है. रिपोर्ट लेने के बाद हम दूसरा स्टेप करेंगे.
करीबन 15 के करीब सैंपल्स लिए गए हैं, उस सब लैब को भेज दिए हैं. उसका एनालिसिस का रिपोर्ट फ्राइडे तक आने की चांसेस है. फ्राइडे को ऑनरेबल कमिश्नर साहब वो रिपोर्ट आने के बाद जो भी है वो आपके सामने उसका ब्यौरा पूरा रख देंगे.
Following the controversies, shares of Nestle India slumped over 10% on Wednesday. But there was some good news for the company after samples of the noodles in Goa did not show up any traces of the flavor enhancer MSG or lead. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
A Delhi court on Wednesday directed CBI to reveal the action taken against Congress leader Jagdish Titler with respect to a closure report filed by the agency in the 1984 Sikh riots case. Advocate H.S. Phulka, who is representing riot victims, apprised the court that businessman Abhishek Verma had told the CBI that Titler had allegedly struck a deal with a prime witness in the case. CBI has also recorded statement of Bollywood actor Amitabh Bachchan in the case.
In the closure report filed by the CBI, it clearly shows that the CBI has got the evidence of two another very serious offences which the Titler has committed. One is the report says that Titler has contacted the witnesses, influenced the witnesses, paid the money to the witnesses. The other evidence which has come that the Titler sent 5 crore rupees by Hawala from here to Canada to his sister. Now this is a clearly second offences under Money Laundering Act and a Hawala transaction. So these are the two clear offences which has come out in the report of the CBI, and they are different and apart from the murder of those 3 Sikhs.
And President Pranab Mukherjee arrived in the Belarusian capital of Minsk on Wednesday on a 2-day visit to enhance bilateral ties. Mukherjee reached Belarus after wrapping up a bilateral visit to Sweden on Tuesday. This is the first visit by an Indian head of state to Belarus. In Minsk, the president will address a joint business conference with his counterpart, Alexander Lukashenko. Mukherjee's visit comes at a time when Delhi and Minsk are in the process of finalizing a joint roadmap for expanding cooperation in sectors including industry, information technology, education and culture. India and Belarus share a cordial relationship. India was one of the first countries to recognize the European Union as was from the European Union as one of the first independent countries in 1991 from the former Soviet Union. With Belarus has been supportive of India's candidature for a permanent seat at the UNSC and the Nuclear Suppliers Group. Well, time for a very quick break. Lots more coming up on the other side too. Stay tuned.
Indo-US Defence Cooperation, a long-standing work in progress, with key pacts to be signed during US Defence Secretary Ashton Carter's visit. What does defence cooperation really signify? Watch the big picture at 6:30 p.m. on Rajya Sabha television.
Welcome back. You're watching the news at 6. Now, Pakistan has rejected India's stand on the upcoming polls in Gilgit and Baltistan, terming it as an interference in the country's internal affairs. Yesterday, India has reacted strongly to the June 8th polls. What's more, Pak Army Chief General Raheel Sharif added fuel to the fire by saying Pakistan and Kashmir are inseparable.
On Tuesday, India had objected to polls in POK as an attempt by Pakistan to camouflage its forced illegal occupation of the region. Islamabad retorted on Wednesday, asserting it is Pakistan's internal affair. Its foreign office accused India of undermining the UN resolution, calling the Kashmir issue an internationally recognized dispute. As the war of words continue, Pak Army Chief Raheel Sharif's remark on Kashmir issue has sparked sharp reactions from the centre. The Pak general termed the issue as an unfinished agenda since the partition. The government has also stood firmly against the polls in the POK region.
The history is well known. I don't want to respond to this statement because I don't want to give value to this kind of unwanted state. The External Affairs Ministry has made a statement very categorically clear that Pakistan activities in POK is illegal.
A statement of Pakistan Army Chief is indeed shocking. I think Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi ji and his government must take note of such provocative statements that are made by Pakistan on a daily basis, interfering with the internal affairs of India.
On Tuesday, India had claimed that the people of the region have become victims of sectarian conflict, terrorism and extreme economic hardship due to Pakistan's occupationary policies. It also objected to the fact that a Pakistani cabinet minister was made the governor of the region recently. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Let's now take a look at all the other national news and updates nationwide. An Indian Air Force fighter aircraft crashed in Odisha's Mayurbhanj district today. However, no one was injured in the incident as both the pilots ejected safely before the crash. Fire tenders were rushed to the site to douse the flames. The cause of the crash has not been ascertained as yet. The Supreme Court has stayed the declaration of the results of the All India Pre-Medical Test for admission to the MBBS course till the 9th of June. The Apex Court asked the CBSE not to declare results as Haryana police were probing a leak of the examination paper. The result was to be declared on the 5th of June. A major fire broke out in West Delhi's Punjabi Bagh area today after an oil tanker caught fire. The fire also spread to a nearby warehouse. Several fire tenders were rushed to the spot to douse the blaze. There was no immediate report of any casualty in the incident. Now, focus story. After a week of long showdown, the US Senate has passed the NSA surveillance bill. Senators voted 67-32 in favor of the bill, which to pass the USA Freedom Act. Hours later, Barack Obama signed the bill into law. The bill seeks to end the bulk collection of Americans' phone records, amongst other measures to curb spying.
The US National Security Agency will not be able to collect phone records anymore. This after the US Senate passed the NSA surveillance bill, ushering in country's most significant surveillance reform since 1978. Senators voted 67-32 to pass the USA Freedom Act. Hours later, the US President Barack Obama signed the legislation.
My advice is to take this bill and pass it and send it to the President to keep America safe.
Now telecom companies will assume responsibility of the phone records collection program. The new surveillance bill will replace the old one with a more targeted system. The bill limits other types of data collection as well, adding transparency measures, and places a new expert panel at the secretive Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Court. They will oversee intelligence activities. The USA Freedom Act came more than 36 hours after 3 parts of the Patriot Act expired, forcing the NSA to wind up its bulk collection of US phone data. NSA now has about 6 months to stop sweeping up phone metadata. Significantly, the bill has been passed exactly 2 years after the NSA contractor Edward Snowden's controversial revelations on WikiLeaks. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Now, to help us understand what does this mean for surveillance, because remember a bill in the US, especially such a bill, does have ramifications across the world. France also had recently passed an passed a surveillance bill which gave the state wide powers. So we're joined by Suhas Chakma, Director of the Asian Center of Human Rights, to help us understand the importance of this bill. Suhas, is this a step down from the US that we saw after 9/11, where it was okay almost to spy on your own citizens in order to ensure safety and security? Now are we seeing a more rational approach as far as spying on your own citizens is concerned?
No, I think it's really a step in the right direction. This year in March, the UN Human Rights Council for the first time adopted the resolution appointing a special rapporteur on right to privacy. Therefore, the US and all other countries in the world who have surveillance mechanism on their own citizens have to comply with their own standards, with the international law relating to privacy. So I think it's a significant step which will also encourage other governments.
Alright, but it doesn't seem to be the case. I mean, the US, we remember, post 9/11, post 2001, suddenly in terms of surveillance, it was okay. Their own experience over the past many years since then has, of course, been towards creating this bill. On the other hand, recently we saw France, after that Charlie Hebdo attack, pass such a bill which gives the state more powers over thought policing of its citizens. So in terms of where the global conversation is headed on this, where do you think?
No, I think at the end of the day, you cannot make everybody a suspect. Because if you start collecting metadata and make every citizen of the US or every citizen in the world a suspect of terrorist activities, so that you have to collect everybody's information and data, then obviously it will fail. At the end of the day, effectiveness lies in specificities. And if the US or any other government for that matter cannot be specific in terms of collecting the data and justify the same before the Foreign Intelligence Committee or the court to say that there is a certain amount of suspicion, then obviously you will be violating the rights of citizens who have nothing to do with the violence. And we have a situation where 99.99 or more than that number of citizens who are not involved with any kind of violence activity. So why do you have to use data collections of these innocent citizens?
Alright, but the argument often given is we live in a world that is so interconnected, especially thanks to the advent of the internet. The rise of the Islamic State is something that is really worrying in almost everybody globally, of the kind of terrorism that we are seeing being unleashed. So in terms of tackling such things, stronger legislation, many countries are suggesting, there are voices in India also that want stronger legislation as far as surveillance is concerned, as far as policing is concerned. So in terms of that balance, in terms of that argument, where do you see us headed?
No, I do not think anybody, any citizen in the US, including those who have voted for this bill, are against surveillance per se. The only issue is when you make the surveillance, then obviously you have to make it specific in terms of who are the threats. Now, if as a citizen of this country, yourself and myself are subjected to surveillance, then obviously it makes no sense. That there is a complete failure of the intelligence if they start snooping around yourself, myself and other activists. So the fear is, the snooping has been used to target each and everybody, and that is where I think the proportionality comes in. I don't think anybody is suggesting that the state must not conduct surveillance. States must conduct surveillance, but again, if you are going to do surveillance of the phones of the German Chancellor or the Brazilian President, there is something wrong with you. Then you are no longer doing surveillance, you are collecting information for your other interest.
Fair enough. So this US step could be a step in the right direction as far as this bill is concerned, that waters down some of these provisions as far as surveillance of its own citizens are concerned. But thank you very much, Suhas Chakma, for coming in and helping us understand this issue a little better. Well, staying with international news now and more updates in Global Buzz. A high-ranking Thai general accused of involvement in human trafficking has surrendered to authorities. 3-star Lieutenant General Manos Kongpan arrived at the National Police Headquarters in Bangkok in his uniform. He denies all charges. A total of 84 arrest warrants have been issued over human trafficking, a business that Thailand has reportedly done little to stop. Warplanes from a military coalition led by Saudi Arabia carried out airstrikes in Yemen, killing at least 16 fighters allied with a Saudi-led group. The victims were fighters supporting President Abdul Rabu Mansur Hadi. The Saudi-led coalition began airstrikes in Yemen in March in a campaign to restore Yemeni President Hadi to power. The US State Department has said that surgery to repair the broken leg of Secretary of State John Kerry went well. The White House said it was too early to assess the impact of Kerry's injury on the timing and location of the ongoing Iran nuclear talks. The US and 5 other world powers have a June 30th deadline to reach a deal with Iran. The Large Hadron Collider has restarted scientific investigations after a 2-year pause. Scientists are waiting for the first new data to begin flowing from the underground particle smasher, paving the way for a new era in physics. On Wednesday, the vast machine clattered proton beams together at much higher energies than were achieved during its first run between 2010 and 2013. Well, some sports now, and the swirling controversy around sports' most powerful body, FIFA, finally got to its biggest phase this week. FIFA President Sepp Blatter quit on Tuesday, 4 days after being elected for a 5th term. After 40 years of being associated with global soccer, 17 of them as FIFA President, 79-year-old Blatter said he no longer had a mandate from the entire world of football.
He had weathered a spate of storms over FIFA's working over the last few years, but the latest one did prove strong enough to knock him out of the most powerful sport in the game, or at least decide to step down under some pressure.
Je chéris la FIFA plus que tout, et je ne souhaite faire que le meilleur pour le football et pour notre institution, la FIFA.
The announcement comes as Swiss authorities mounted a criminal probe into the award of the 2018 and 2022 World Cups to Russia and Qatar. Russia has termed the controversy a political move. Some African nations expressed disappointment at Blatter's resignation, but there is a consensus in Europe that his going was long overdue.
At this stage, it's not clear what has finally changed Sepp Blatter's mind. All I can say is that I'm very pleased that he has done so and has accepted what has been obvious to us for a long time, which is that his credibility as leader of FIFA is utterly destroyed.
Das ist die Entscheidung, die absolut richtig ist, die überfällig ist. Und es ist eigentlich eine Tragik, warum er sich selber und uns allen das
An extraordinary session of the FIFA Congress will now be called and fresh elections held likely in December-January this year. Prince Ali bin Al Hussein of Jordan, who had withdrawn during the election on 29th of May, said a complete overhaul is long overdue.
And we have to reverse the pyramid. We have to put the priority of players and fans above anyone else. And that's what I thought all along.
During his speech, Blatter did not mention the dates for fresh elections for the post, but pointed out that it will take place before the next World Congress in May 2016. According to FIFA rules, it cannot be held for at least 4 months from now. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Time now for all the sporting action in Sportsbeat. World number 1 Saina Nehwal disposed of Thailand's Nichao Jindapon challenge in straight games at the Indonesian Open Super Series badminton tournament. Saina got the better of a Thai opponent in 35 minutes. Meanwhile, in the men's singles, P. Kashyap overcame Thailand's Tanong Sak in just 29 minutes to advance to the second round. Kashyap next faces 5th-seeded South Korean Wan Ho-sun. Women's doubles top seed Sania Mirza and her partner Martina Hingis of Switzerland crashed out of the French Open. The duo were defeated by the pair of Martic and Sands and Sarfova in the quarterfinals. The Indo-Swiss team lost in straight sets. In women's singles, 7th seed Anna Ivanovic reached the semi-finals after brushing aside Ukraine's Elina Svitolina. Ivanovic will face Lucy Safrova for the place in the final after she defeated Gabriela Muguruza 7-6, 6-3. The men's singles 2nd seed Roger Federer crashed out after a straight sets defeat to Stan Wawrinka in the quarterfinals. Wawrinka will now meet home favourite Jo-Wilfried Tsonga in the semi-finals following his win over Kei Nishikori. Well, that's all from us. Goodbye.